So welcome, storytellers. How many people have never been to a queer memoir before? Thank you, Sassafras, for creating a leather black party for us.
Anytime.
Just showing you the cover. So just I'm going to give a little background, more background about queer memoir than I normally would, since folks are not as familiar. My name is Kelli Dunham. I started queer memoir with Jenny Murphy, who's not able to be here. Actually, her play about one of her experiences is actually being put up in Philadelphia right now. So, just really amazing. We're really happy about that. Anyway, so we started queer memoir 2 years ago, and it was one of those things, you know, you guys are all queer event producers, because we all are. And we're saying how any flat surface at a queer event will instantly be covered with postcards. Like, just people start putting postcards out. And so, why do we produce queer events? Because you're standing around in your living room and you're like, or your shared space, whatever that is, the kitchen, because there's somebody living in your living room. And you say like, oh, I really wish there were a whatever. And then somebody's like, well, there can be a whatever if you make it happen, right? So that's why how queer memoir came to be. We wanted there to be a queer storytelling series, and so we created it. It's one of those things, you know, it's always just sticking things, throwing things against the wall and seeing what sticks, and queer memoir stuck. We've had 40 different events in 2 years. We've never had less than 65 people at any event, including an Sunday afternoon that we tried one time. We've done things for we've done stuff in 3 different states, in Pennsylvania and also in California, as well as New York. And we've even done stuff like, for example, around the winter holidays last year, we did a family event where people who were telling their stories brought their family members, and they like co-told with their family members. Like I told a story with my straight sister, and like Jenny brought her dad. So it's been kind of interesting. Just to tell you a little bit about queer memoir conventions. How many of you have been like to the Moth or one of those other big storytelling events? Right. Okay. So the Moth's little motto is, you know, real stories told live without notes, and our takeoff of that is real stories told live with whatever you need to tell your story, right? That can be notes, that can be a teleprompter, you have to bring your own, but that can be Ativan, that can be your own verbal Ativan if that's what you need. Because the thing is, if we only let people who can tell stories live without notes tell stories, not everybody's stories get heard. And that's one of the things. Jenny, who's not here and you can't see, but I'm motioning to anyway. Jenny is not a performer. Jenny's a playwright and a writer, and she doesn't even really like getting in front of people. And I'm a stand-up comic, and I like attention, so I like being in front of people, right? But the idea is that people who don't like to be in front of people and people who do all need their stories told, right? So they're all important stories. And because of that, we do a couple different things. One is that we always introduce queer memoir storytellers just by their first name. And then afterwards, we always, you know, if people have stuff like, oh, I have a website, and I have a book, and I have 37 postcards and things to raffle off, and we can talk a little bit about it. And then the other thing is we do, you want to come up, okay? This is like, Jenny calls this our skit, and I'm like, it's not a skit, it's only 2 lines. So this is, tonight there's not really folks who are not usually in front of people, but often there are, and often people are telling stories that they haven't told to anyone, sometimes even their therapist. So, could you come to our stage? I'm really nervous. Woo! Yeah, that's fantastic. And Jenny's dad actually tricked the audience into giving him a standing ovation by making everybody get up and then saying, I'm nervous. So you can also do that if you want to be like Jenny's dad. You know, with queer memoir, we never know what we're getting. We usually have pretty general themes. One of our first themes was scars, and we thought, wow, this is going to be really intense, right? Not intense at all. But when we did the morning after, which we thought was going to be like a very lighthearted, oh, I had sex, and then we went home. It ended up being like 3 of the 7 stories were about institutionalization. So we don't really know what we're getting, and I actually think that's one of the beauty of people coming forth and really kind of speaking their own personal truth and their own personal stories. And even the pets thing, when Sassafras asked to do the pets thing, I thought like, oh, what is this going to be? A bunch of dykes telling stories about their pet, their cats?
I love that you call this a pet thing,
I have a lot of faith in Sassafras, and we see storytelling the same way. So when Sassafras said, hey, I really want to do a queer memoir pets, I was like, okay. And it ended up being all really transformative, amazing stories. But I was the only dyke telling a cat story, actually.
I think there were two of you.
Oh.
And you, but...
Yeah, there was at least one more.
Anyway, so...
There always is.
So anyway, I think that's all I really have to say by way of introduction for Queer Memoir. Thank you guys so much for coming. I will hope you come to our next Queer Memoir is now is March?
Yes,
April
yeah.
7th. And it is called In-Laws and Outlaws. I have really great people, and sometimes those are the same, actually. Mine will be the same, my in-law and outlaw is the same. So I'm just going to turn it over to Sassafras to run the rest of the event.
Thank you all so much for coming. I'm super excited that this happened, and really first want to thank Queer Memoir and specifically Kelli for letting me do this. I think when I proposed pets the first time, which Kelli already said, I think she was a little like, really, you're going to talk about your dogs for an hour? And I was like, probably other people will. And then when I was like, can we do this? And she was all about it, and I was very excited about that also.
When will we see the leather pets one?
I'm sure that Kelli will be all over it. Not that I can speak for Kelli, but so I want to thank everybody so much for coming in general. I think Kelli's already done a spectacular job of introducing Queer Memoir as an event and as a regular event in New York. It is without a doubt my favorite event, probably anywhere that I've been to, just because of the diversity of storytelling that it brings about. Folks who know me know that I'm kind of a story junkie, and so this has really kind of been my favorite event in the city. And I'm also really excited to be doing this particular event. I came out into a very crusty gutter punk, which you will hear later, leather community over a decade ago, and have been an event organizer for a decade, and this is somehow the very first leather-themed event I've ever done. Somehow that happened, and I'm really excited that it is at Queer Memoir, and that it is, as some folks may know, tonight is a benefit for Right Here, Right Now, which is a writing program based in Boston, but working with writers all around the country, specifically LGBTQI writers, founded and run by Toni Amato, who is an amazing writer, storyteller, leather folk, and my uncle, and so I'm very excited that this event is happening to benefit them tonight. And also there is a bake sale in the back that benefits Right Here, Right Now. We'll have an intermission about halfway through, and yeah, there's delicious things. There are fruity Rice Krispie treats, so they're rainbowed. There are red velvet dinosaurs. There are vegan red velvet dinosaurs. It's for the vegans. There are 3 different kinds of mini cheesecakes, and
Soon to only be 2 different kinds of
there's soon to only be 2 different kinds of mini cheesecakes, and there are brownies, all by Kestrel, who's an awesome baker and is in the back. So. And we're going to get started tonight with, I have a letter from Toni, who couldn't be down here, a letter and then a short piece of his that he had requested be read tonight for all of you. To all of you, my dear and familiar family and friends, rekindled from the past, vibrant, present, and even yet to be known in person, thank you. Thank you for your passion and your perversion. Thank you for your filthy minds and fervent hearts. Thank you for your work and words and your words and your words. So many of you were there last year as I struggled with major health issues, and now tonight, so many more of you are here also to further the scope and reach of Right Here, Right Now. I wish that I were well enough to be there with you, but I am still very much in recovery, and am instead on a retreat after my first 2 months back in service. Please know that I have woken every morning of this retreat in awed and almost frightfully grateful to each of you and every